Soul is my favorite Pixar movie to date, and I want to talk about it. Now, disclaimer, I haven't seen every Pixar movie, there may be better ones out there, but what I've seen, Soul is the cream of the crop. The video is titled The Beauty of Soul, and I can sit there and talk about the art style or the fact that the animators spent countless hours watching reference videos live to get the hand movements correct and animating tendons and joints to make it perfect, but these aren't really the reasons I love Soul. Sure, they contribute, but the real beauty lies within the story. Now, I will be talking in detail about some of the key elements of the story, so if you have not seen Soul and don't want it spoiled, here's your official warning. Without further ado, hit that like button, subscribe, and sit back as we do a little soul searching. What do you want in life? What is that thing you wish for that will make you happier? Is it a specific job, a promotion, a college degree? Maybe it's a significant other. Or are you perfectly content where you are now? Most people come with this innate desire to grow, to be better, to improve our circumstances. Joe Gardner is no exception. He is a middle school band teacher and just got offered a position to be full-time, something that his mother is very proud of. The problem is, he's not exactly happy with where his life ended up. His dream is to play jazz, be a proper musician, so he hesitates. He doesn't want to accept the full-time position because that would mean giving up on his dream. As he thinks about whether he should accept it or not, he gets a call from an old student who got a position in Dorothea Williams' quartet.
You kidding me? Congratulations, man. Wow. I would die a happy man if I could perform with Dorothea Williams.
The way he says this, he really means it. His whole life, he's been trying to be a musician, and if only he could play with Dorothea Williams, he would find happiness. He also gets the offer to try out for the quartet. Joe's been looking for more out of his life, and he is finally given the opportunity to prove himself as a musician. His interview goes well, and he lands himself a spot playing in the quartet. Elated, he was walking around the streets of New York, not paying any attention, narrowly avoiding death, until, spoiler alert, he dies. He falls into a manhole, although he's not technically dead yet.
Your body's in a holding pattern. It's complicated.
He then finds himself in the afterlife, or as they call it,
the great beyond.
And he's upset. He finally got his chance to be a musician. The day he has been waiting for his whole life has been taken from him.
I'm not dying the very day I got my shot. I'm due. Heck, I'm overdue.
After tearing through the fabric of reality, he finds himself in the great before, where souls are made and personalities are given to them. This is where we meet soul number 22, who never found her spark and doesn't want to live life, preferring instead to stay here where things are comfortable. 22 here lies as a stark contrast from Joe Gardner, who instead of looking for more, is satisfied with where she's at.
I'm comfortable up here, I have my routine. It's not great, but I know what to expect.
Look.
While Joe is looking for more than he has now, she doesn't believe there is more, that this is already as good as it's gonna get. Many people bounce between both positions, wanting more, but comfortable with where we're at, and we're afraid of doing more. We're afraid of change. We're afraid of biting off more than we can chew. Joe sees himself as a musician, as a jazz player. That is his purpose. That is his spark. It's his reason for living.
It's what I was meant to do, and nothing's gonna stop me.
With 22, he is given a chance to look back on his life, and we see for the first time what he saw in his past: getting rejected.
Sorry, Joe.
Sorry, Joe.
We're looking for something different.
Nobody wants him to play for them. Nobody wants him to join their band. Being forced to settle, he gets a job as a music teacher, and as we learn this, Joe is learning this as well. As somber music kicks in, we see this, his past. Eating alone at a table, stuck as a teacher, hoping for more, he utters these soul-crushing words.
My life was meaningless.
In that moment, he truly believes it. His life was meaningless. He's looking back at his life, and he isn't happy with the outcome. He's been given the chance to view what he has done up until this point, and he isn't happy with what he sees. He decides then to work with 22, to try to find a way back to his body, to continue to live his life, to finally find meaning in his life, to finally be a true musician. He eventually makes his way back, but due to an unforeseen mix-up, his soul gets stuck in a cat, and 22's soul gets stuck in his body. Finding they can't switch back until another thin spot between the Earth and the astral plane,
Well, the government calls it 6:30.
they begin to work together to get Joe ready for his performance. If he can do good, if he can impress Dorothea Williams, his life will be perfect. While getting a haircut, 22 begins to talk about her past. She asks the question,
They say you're born to do something, but How do you figure out what that thing is? I mean, what if you pick up the wrong thing?
where they discover that Des wasn't originally planning on being a barber.
Wanted to be a veterinarian. Then my daughter got sick, and barber school is a lot cheaper than veterinarian school.
And her response?
Well, that's too bad. You're stuck as a barber and now you're unhappy.
Whoa.
A lot of people assume there is only one right answer. There is only one thing that I meant to be. There is only one thing that will make me happy. Joe and 22 both view life in this way, but Dez's view is completely different.
I'm happy as a clam, my man.
Sure, things didn't work out with veterinarian school, but Dez is still content to be where he's at. Unlike Joe, Dez can see the meaning behind why he's working. After getting his hair fixed, Joe, or 22 in Joe's body, accidentally tears a hole in his suit. So they go to his mom to get it fixed, where she expresses her disappointment in him choosing to play with Dorothea Williams rather than accepting his full-time position at the school. She wants the best for him, and being a musician doesn't make enough. She knows how tough it was on his father, and she wants a better life for him. As Joe tries to convince his mom that he was born to be a musician, he utters these words.
I'm just afraid that if I died today, that my life would have amounted to nothing.
At this point, she realizes how much music actually means to him and begins to support him. She gives him a suit and sends him on his way. The time comes around for Joe and 22 to switch back, and he asks her what she thinks of Earth. She begins to tell him her story, saying, "Maybe I'm not good enough for living." Throughout the show, she is afraid of living, afraid that maybe she's not good enough, afraid that something is wrong with her, and that's why she could never get her spark. After living in Joe's body for a day and experiencing different parts of life, she begins to realize that there is something more. There is a reason for living. She hasn't found her spark yet, but she feels close and realizes that by switching back, she may not ever find her spark. She has to keep looking, and she runs. After getting captured and being brought back to the great beyond, both Joe and 22 begin arguing.
I was gonna play with Dorothea Williams.
I was about to find my spark.
They are both looking for meaning in their lives. After arguing, everyone realizes that 22 did find her spark. 22 finished her Earth Pass, and Joe believes that it was because of him. She was living his life, and that's what caused her to finish her pass.
You don't know. You can't be sure why my past changed.
22 wants to believe that she is the one who changed it. She is the one who found her spark. She found meaning in living. Joe works to convince her that it was him that changed it, not her. She throws a Earth Pass at him, and he makes it back to his body.
I'm no good. I got no purpose. No purpose.
She becomes a lost soul, and he gets his body back.
Get ready, Joe Gardner. Your life is about to start.
When his performance starts, he is playing excellently, and he's enjoying it. He is finally living his life the way he wants to. He has found his purpose. Satisfied with his performance, Dorothea Williams invites him to be a permanent part of the quartet. After the performance ends and everyone goes home and the noise dies down, he begins to reflect.
So, what happens next?
What happens next? The words of many of us after every step taken. What is the next step? Now that I've reached my goal, where do we go from here?
We come back tomorrow night and do it all again.
This makes him pause.
It's just, I've been waiting on this day for my entire life. I thought I'd feel different.
Those words, I thought I'd feel different. They are the words of someone who has everything they thought they wanted. Once you finally reach your goal, what are you left with? He is still Joe Gardner, he's still a musician, but he thought he would feel different. He thought there would be a significant change in his life, that this would fix his problems, that this would cause him to finally be happy with where his life is. This is a trap that many people find themselves in. Many times we think, once something happens, I will be happy. Once I finish school, I will be happy. Once I get a girlfriend, I will be happy. Once I land this new job, once I get that promotion, I will be happy. Once we finally get these things, once we finally have it all, and we're still not happy, not how we thought we would be anyway, we begin to wonder if maybe there's something wrong with us. Maybe we're just not meant to be happy. Maybe we picked the wrong degree. Maybe we got the wrong job. Maybe something else needs to happen to find happiness. Maybe there is something else that we're missing that we just haven't found yet. Even though we have everything we thought we wanted, we thought it would feel different. Now what follows is probably my favorite scene from any Pixar movie ever. A full 3 minutes of nothing but soundtrack and visuals. No dialogue, but it is done so masterfully. There is no dialogue needed, and in my opinion, it's the most powerful scene in this entire movie. A scene that gives me the chills and brings me on the verge of tears every time I watch the movie. After getting back to his apartment, he empties his pockets, seeing the knickknacks that 22 collected throughout the day. During my favorite soundtrack from this movie, he sits at the piano and begins to reflect. He starts to see the beauty in small things, joking around with 22, experiencing music, talking with friends, smiling at his mom, playing piano with his dad, watching fireworks, witnessing a child's passion. He realizes that he was already living life, he just couldn't see it. In one of my favorite shots, we also see him sitting alone, eating a pie, but enjoying it. This is the same scene that played earlier, when he thought his life was meaningless. Nothing is different from the earlier scene, except the light now reflects his change in perspective. He is beginning to see the beauty in small things. Life isn't always about the destination, but about the journey, and if we're not careful, we will lose sight of that.
Maybe skywatching can be my spark, or walking. I'm really good at walking.
He realizes that he needs to go back to the Great Before to save 22, to give her a chance at life. So he enters the zone by getting lost in his music. Finding 22 as a lost soul, he tries to talk to her to give her the Earth Pass back, to convince her that she does in fact deserve a chance.
Your spark isn't your purpose. That last box fills in when you're ready to come live.
Throughout this movie, Joe and 22 go on 2 separate journeys. Joe starts out wanting more, not happy with how his life ended up, but he came to realize that although change can be good, it's also important to realize and appreciate the beauty of the great life you already lived. 22, on the other hand, is afraid of change. She wants to experience life, but believed that there was something wrong with her, and she wasn't good enough. This made her unwilling to even take that next step. Too afraid to take a chance, instead preferring to stay all the way in her comfort zone. Eventually, she comes to realize that she is ready to take that next step. These are 2 opposite sides. Joe and 22 are both on the extremes of each side. Sometimes we find ourselves on one extreme or the other, but what both of them come to see by the end of the movie is that there needs to be a good balance. Both of their views were wrong. You can't spend your whole life only looking for the next step, but you also can't be stagnant. You need to appreciate what you have while simultaneously moving forward for something better. After getting back the Earth Pass, 22 realizes that Joe won't be able to live his life anymore, but he's okay with this.
It's okay. I already did. Now it's your turn.
After his reflection, he accepts that his life, although not perfect, was well worth living. He lets his life go. He accepts his death and gives 22 the chance to live her life. He saw the hidden beauty in his life, and he saw what a great life it actually was. The movie could have ended here, with Joe accepting it, and it would have been a great ending, but he is then given a second chance. Because he inspired Jerry, he is given another chance to continue living his life.
So, what do you think you'll do? How are you going to spend your life?
I'm gonna live every minute of it.
And it ends. I've seen some people say they didn't like this ending. It's not your big climax like a typical show. It's not a real tearjerker like some other Pixar films might be. It doesn't even tell you what comes next, whether Joe will continue in the quartet or as a teacher, but it leaves you with the feeling of reflection, a thoughtful and hopeful message. It leaves you thinking about your life. Maybe you do know what you're going to spend your life on. Maybe you don't. Just make sure you live every minute of it. This movie isn't perfect by any means, and there are some parts I don't like about it, but what it does well is its core theme. We as humans get so caught up in life that we forget to live. We are always looking for the next destination. We're always focused on the next best thing, and sometimes we forget to stop and smell the roses. Sometimes we get so caught up in life that we forget to live it. Not a complicated message by any means, but a message each of us need. And therein lies